Like in the original storyline, I was now laying down on a type of couch and Celine told Erica to watch me and protect me, and then Celine took a bit of time to get a handle on her new powers and she started to control her hormones, and I still couldn't control mine, and since me and Celine ate regular human food just recently, our pheromones and hormones are even stronger and we smell kind of like humans, and that's why they are looking at us like food, because we haven't learned how to completely control our hormones and pheromones yet. And right now Erica is standing over and looking at me and she whispered, "You have no bite marks," and for whatever reason I just felt very sleepy and tired, and while I was sleeping I passed out and Erica couldn't resist anymore, so she started feeding on my blood and then she quickly had sex with me while I was sleeping, and then after some time Celine walked in to find Erica on top of me having sex with me, and I said, "Ma'am, please stop, it's my hormones, you don't understand," and I said, "Please get off of me," and then Celine ran over and pushed Erica off of me, and then Celine said, "Leave him alone, you don't understand," and then Erica said, "Oh, I understand, I tasted his blood and it tasted really good and he spilled his seed in me too and I want more." Erica said, "Give him back," and then I said, "We have to get the hell out of here," and then Erica said, "Come here, handsome," and then Celine punched Erica, knocking her back, and then I jumped out the window and I landed on my feet, and then Erica said, "He's already turning," and then Erica said, "He's mine, I turned him, screw Craven, I want him," and then Celine said, "You can't have him, he's mine because I turned him before you did, and the same thing that happened to me and James will happen to you, Erica, you need to come with us," and then Erica said, "No, I'm not going anywhere with you," and then Celine escaped with me, and then the Lycans dressed like cops finally caught me and Celine followed me in the car, and the Lycans said, "It's going to be a full moon, soon he's going to turn," and then the other Lycans said, "He's already turned, his claws are black," and then my eyes turned black, and then I drank the werewolf's blood, and Celine got me out of the car and she brought me back to the house where her vampire coven is, and she started the process of reviving Victor, and then I said I fed on those police officers, but they weren't really police officers, they were Lycans in disguise, and when I drank their blood I got all their memories, and then I said, "You're right, I'm a hybrid, which means I can always control my transformation," and then Celine said, "I need you to concentrate and control your hormones and your pheromones just like I did," Celine said, and then I said, "Okay, I will try," and then I controlled all my hormones and pheromones to be at normal human levels, and I already knew how to do it, but I was just pretending for Celine. After we revived Victor, he assumed I was human because I have no bite marks, and I even had proof that Craven is a traitor, so after Celine revived Victor I showed him the proof on a videotape that I got with my powers, and Victor got visibly angry and he said, "Damn traitor, I can't believe I allowed someone like him to live with us for years undetected, I should have known better," and then Victor said to me, "I'm sorry human, you are free to go," and then Celine said, "Victor, wait, he's the descendant of Alexander Corvinus, his blood has the powers to allow vampires to walk in the sunlight," and then Victor asked her, "What do you mean, how do you know this?" and then Celine said, "Because I bit him and he turned into something else entirely, he's not an ordinary vampire, he's something different like Marcus," and then Victor said, "Show me," and then I showed Victor my true form, and then he asked me, "What are you?" and then I spoke in my true form and I said, "I think I'm some type of hybrid," and then Victor said, "This isn't possible, usually Lycans can't talk in their beast form," and then Victor said, "You're an abomination," and then I said, "No, I'm not, I'm just different, I'm also one of you and you're not allowed to kill your kind, right?" and then Victor said, "You are not my kind," and then I said, "Celine, I thought you said this guy was cool," and then Celine said, "Yes, I thought so, but I could be wrong," and then Victor asked, "Why do you both smell like humans?" and then I said, "Because we can eat human food like normal humans and it sustains us like blood," and then Victor said, "That's impossible," and then I said, "No, it's not," and Celine didn't turn into a werewolf when she drank my blood, she just became a very powerful vampire, that's all, I swear, and then Victor said, "What?" and then I said, "Celine drank my blood and she didn't turn into a werewolf, she just became a very powerful vampire," and then Victor grabbed my shirt by the collar and he asked me, "You said you're a descendant of Alexander Corvinus, right?" and then I said, "Yes," and then Victor said, "Okay, that explains it," and then Victor said, "Come here, boy."